The evening gathers around a single candle, and everyone understands exactly how much darkness remains. As daylight faded, work rarely ended immediately. Tools were repaired beside dwindling hearthlight. Families measured evening hours by candle length, carefully preserving costly wax whenever possible. Children learned stories from living voices, repeating details until memory carried them forward. Neighbours crossed muddy paths after supper, bringing news gathered across fields and lanes. A spinning wheel hummed steadily, transforming loose wool while conversation threaded through silence. Many hands shared one room, each occupied with small tasks beneath uncertain light. The fire's crackle filled pauses naturally, requiring no effort to silence emptiness. Winter evenings stretched long and dark, encouraging patience rather than resistance against time. People remembered hundreds of names, obligations, boundaries, and histories without written reminders nearby. Songs carried local histories, preserving events long after witnesses themselves had disappeared. A grandmother's tale could outlast storms, harvest failures, and generations of listeners. Many evenings centered around mending garments, extending usefulness through careful, practiced attention. The household bench served equally for work, conversation, meals, and reflection after sunset. Darkness outside windows remained largely unknowable, encouraging respect for unseen movement beyond. People often recognized approaching visitors by footsteps long before faces became visible. The village bell organized expectations, marking hours more reliably than distant sunlight. Evening prayers structured uncertainty, offering familiar words against hardships nobody could predict. A well-maintained fire represented planning, labor, and security accumulated throughout previous seasons. Conversations wandered slowly, interrupted by practical duties nobody considered separate from living. Young people absorbed customs naturally, hearing repeated examples rather than formal explanations. Winter storms encouraged entire households to gather closely around limited warmth and light. Shared labor reduced burdens, turning necessary work into occasions for companionship and learning. Few expected constant stimulation. Attention settled comfortably upon ordinary, repeated activities. Weather discussed during supper might determine tomorrow's opportunities, risks, and survival alike. A missing animal could occupy evening conversations more urgently than distant political events. The condition of stored grain mattered deeply, influencing confidence long before spring arrived. People listened carefully to elders, whose memories extended beyond many written records. Seasonal rhythms shaped expectations so completely that alternatives rarely entered consideration. The night sky remained a familiar presence, observed directly through countless evenings. Clouds obscuring stars could provoke practical concern regarding travel, weather, and timing. Families rehearsed obligations aloud, ensuring agreements survived despite limited documentation. Many evenings included quiet counting of supplies, measuring security against approaching months. The scent of smoke clung to clothing, furniture, and memories without remark. Wood needed tomorrow was often prepared tonight, preventing hardship before dawn arrived. Children learned patience from necessity, waiting through seasons rather than brief inconveniences. A skilled storyteller could hold attention longer than any object within reach. Visitors brought valuable information, transforming ordinary arrivals into anticipated community events. Local disputes were discussed face to face, shaped by reputations impossible to escape. People evaluated character through years of observation rather than distant impressions. Households frequently shared sleeping spaces, making privacy a rare and carefully understood condition. Agnes leaves little written legacy, yet medieval England quietly stands upon women like her. The evening meal often reflected weather patterns established months before anyone ate. Practical knowledge travelled through demonstration, repeated patiently beside fires and work tables. Young apprentices spent evenings observing details masters considered too obvious for explanation. A candle, extinguished unexpectedly, could alter plans immediately, conserving resources for tomorrow. Night travel remained uncommon unless necessity outweighed hazards accepted as ordinary realities. Dogs reacted first to disturbances, often alerting households before people noticed anything. Stories of local spirits circulated comfortably alongside practical discussions about livestock and weather. The boundary between entertainment and instruction rarely required clear distinction during evenings. Music emerged from familiar instruments, played imperfectly, yet welcomed without expectation of mastery. The village itself provided continuity, surrounding individuals with generations of remembered experience. Many people spent evenings preparing materials required for tomorrow's labor at first light. A damaged tool commanded immediate attention, preventing larger difficulties from developing unnoticed. The pace of conversation allowed observations to settle before responses were offered. Parents measured children's growth against responsibilities gradually entrusted, rather than numerical milestones. Harvest outcomes influenced moods months later, lingering quietly beneath everyday discussions. People accepted uncertainty regarding distant events, focusing attention upon immediate relationships and needs. The household fire demanded continual management, rewarding vigilance and punishing neglect without warning. Evening gatherings reinforced belonging, reminding individuals where obligations and protections resided. News often travelled through several voices, acquiring context before reaching listeners. Many learned local history while working, absorbing narratives inseparable from practical tasks. A successful day concluded not with celebration, but with preparation for another. People understood scarcity intimately, making small comforts meaningful beyond their material value. The arrival of winter darkness altered habits gradually, rarely provoking frustration or surprise. Children drifted asleep, listening to conversations not intended exclusively for their ears. Neighbours remembered one another's struggles because distance seldom obscured daily realities. The evening offered opportunities for reflection unavailable during demanding daylight labour. Many skills improved incrementally through repeated practice conducted beside shared fires. Silence was rarely treated as uncomfortable when everyone understood tomorrow's responsibilities. People expected nature to impose limits, then organised life carefully within them. The rhythm of spinning, carving and stitching created familiar patterns across generations. Evening prayers sometimes included requests for outcomes no human effort could guarantee. Families judged approaching seasons through subtle signs discussed long after supper ended. The darkness beyond the door remained present, acknowledged without needing constant attention. Communities preserved identity through repeated gatherings where stories confirmed shared understanding. Many evenings passed without novelty, yet rarely seemed empty to participants. People invested attention deeply because distractions remained fewer and relationships stayed immediate. The household's future depended partly upon small evening choices repeated over years. Skills learned beside candlelight often determined resilience during hardship months later. Night gradually settled across fields, ending visibility without ending responsibility or concern. The final tasks before sleep often protected comfort, safety, and tomorrow's efficiency. Morning's demands were already understood, allowing evening thoughts to remain grounded and practical. The candle finally vanished into darkness, and the household trusted dawn would return.